So guys, today we have a 2019 430 Xi BMW. We're going to be changing the oil. Super simple process. You guys can do it on your own. Let's get into it. First thing you're going to do, lift the engine cover. It just pops off. Next thing, crack the oil cap open. Next thing we're going to do, you can pull these little tabs to the driver's side for this harness bracket and lift up and just kind of move it out of the way. And you can see in here, the top of your oil filter right here, you can see there, that's a 27 millimeter. I have a socket for that. We're just going to crack that loose. Tools you're going to need for this, of course, a ratchet, medium to short extension, 17 millimeter socket for the oil drain, a pick for the oil filter and the O-rings, and I have this tool kit, this little oil filter socket set. Get a little close-up of it. I can link that tool in the description, but it has all the different sizes on it. The 32 millimeter, that's for the 6-cylinder B48 engines. But for the 27 millimeter we're going to be using today, that's for the 4 cylinders. That's 27 millimeters. It's low profile, it's short, it's 3/8 drive, so it's perfect for the job. You could have the option to take this out. It makes it a little easier. It just kind of unhooks from the cowl. You could either do that or you could use a wobble extension. I don't have a wobble extension. But this just makes it a lot easier to get the right angle. So you crack that loose, let that drain, and while it's draining, we're going to get underneath and start draining the oil. Drain the oil, I'm going to jack up the car. I don't have ramps or anything to lift it up. I put a jack stand just for extra safety. You always should. And that gives me room to go underneath and crack the drain bolt loose. And of course, to do your oil change, the other tool you're going to need is some kind of oil drain, some kind of oil drain bucket. Here we are underneath the car, and you can see there's a couple different covers and a bunch of shields everywhere. But if you go all the way back, you'll find this opening, and that's where the oil drain bolt is. That's the one you're going to want to break loose. While that's draining, let's change out the filter. Here's the drain plug. It comes with the crush washer. Always replace that. Here's the OEM filter. Always use OEM, super important. I have another video on that. How to make your BMW last longer. Use OEM filters. Here's the part number. And you take it out here. You just pull up on it. You might have to give it a little wiggle. So there's that. It only goes in one way. So get your pick. O-ring comes off. That's garbage. Get the new O-ring. Give it a nice coat of oil. And you slide it onto the most bottom groove here. Not this top one, but the bottom one. So right here is where you're going to want it. Give it another coat of oil with your gloves. That's how it's supposed to look. Filter goes on one way. And give this little O-ring a coat of oil. Press it in until it clicks. Now it's in there. Now we're ready to screw it back into the oil filter housing. You're going to want to start it by hand. So you just keep tightening it, and you'll kind of feel it catch. And pretty much go until you can't twist with your hand anymore. Make sure it's nice and smooth, the threads are engaged, and we tighten her up. So you are going to want to torque it down. The torque spec is 25 Newton meters. If you don't have a torque wrench, no big deal, but just don't crank on this. That's it. So that's nice and tight. And we'll put this on. Got the new one here. And guys, just make sure that the crush washers aren't doubled up. Sometimes people double them up. I inspected it closer, so they aren't doubled up, so we're good there. Here's the new one. I'm going to tighten it up. Guys, another thing you're going to want to torque here, the drain bolt. That's super important. Sometimes people over tighten it. They strip out the threads. Then you need an oil pan over just a simple tightening torque spec. I believe it's 25 Newton meters as well. That's good. Usually there's a cover here, a little plastic cover with an 8mm bolt. This one's missing, but just so you guys can keep an eye out for it. Let's clean up that residual oil and we'll lower the car down. Since most of you will be doing this in your driveway, while you're doing your oil change, there's a couple good things to look out for. While you're underneath the car, you're gonna wanna look at the suspension components, specifically these thrust arm bushings. And you can see, here's a telltale sign of when they're leaking, the black fluid leaking out of them. These thrust arm bushings, they're filled with hydraulic fluid, and when they wear out and crack, this black fluid starts to come out of them. So inspect those before they get really bad, and once you'll notice it when they're really bad. When you start to brake, you'll hear a clunk and things like that. Look at your axle boots. You could even spray them down with some rubber care to make them last longer. No cracks. Another thing to look out for are these, a little tough to see, the bottom of the strut where it comes into the knuckle. There's a lip, and when you hit bumps hard enough, especially on the East Coast here, the tri-state area, you'll notice the strut would be pushed all the way through, sometimes touching the axle boot. This one looks to be okay, but that's something to keep an eye out for just while you're doing the oil change. Just do a quick, nice look over the suspension. Make sure there's no oil dripping on the splash shields. Let's look at this thrust arm bushing. Yep, that one's leaking as well. You can see that black fluid there. We'll take a look at all the suspension, axle boots, make sure there's no damage there. Just looking out for leaks, same thing on this side. And then also, while you're doing your oil change, take a look at your brakes. See how good they are, see how much life is left on them. These seem to be okay. Not sure if you guys could see in there. Those look to be okay. Inspect your tires, look for any kind of bubbles on the sidewalls. Check the tread, check your tire pressures. You know, go around to the back side, same thing. Check the sidewalls for any bubbles. Check your brake pads. If you have a mirror, when checking your brake pads, it's a little better because then you'll be able to stick your mirror inside by the caliper and look at the inside brake pad. They seem to wear out a little quicker than the outside brake pads on BMWs. So do that at all four corners. Now we add oil. This takes about 5.3 quarts. And for different types of oil, I would use just the OEM BMW oil. The customer provided their own oil on this one. But if you're not going to use OEM BMW oil, just use Pennzoil, because that's the company that BMW actually uses for their oil. 0W20 synthetic. So once you're done with everything, we're going to inspect the top of the engine, but before you do that, we just want to clean the engine bay. And you know, you'll have leaves and sticks and dirt and grime in here just everywhere. Best way to clean it is just get a vacuum. I'm just going to use them to look over the engine. My other flashlights are dead. So you're going to want to get on this side of the engine. This is the valve cover. Just look for any wet oil spots along the side of the engine. You'll notice a really wet, like caked up dirt area where it would be leaking oil. Look for any harness, like wiring harnesses that may be chewed or frayed or something like that. Just really doing a deep visual inspection, looking for any coolant, any signs of coolant leaking, crusty coolant lines, all towards the front of the engine here. And you'll definitely want to take a look at the water pump area. We'll pop this cover off, start over here, and just pop up, lift it up. Look for any signs of crusty coolant. You can catch it, prematurely before it really starts pissing out on you and then leaves you stranded. You want to catch it before then. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're just trying to catch stuff before they cause a huge issue. And then once you're done with the oil change, you inspected everything, we're just going to go around, top off all the fluids, check the coolant. Make sure you do this when it's cooled off so the coolant doesn't overflow. Auxiliary coolant tank, that's good. Every time I do an oil change on my cars, any customer's cars, I like to spray it down and clean it. Just give it a rinse. Kind of just keeps everything looking fresh, looking new. Who doesn't like a clean engine compartment when they pop the hood? So this is how you reset your oil light after you're done with everything. Ignition's off, engine off, turn the ignition on, the dash lights up, wait till all the messages go away. You could speed that up by hitting this BC button. All right, everything's clear. Now you hold this button on the left here and you hold it down. The message for that comes up. It says reset possible. You let off and then you hold it down again. It asks to reset, let off, hold it down again, and it should start resetting. Keep holding it. Let off, reset successful. You can scroll through everything else. There's the vehicle check, brake fluid, brakes, front brakes. It brings you back to vehicle check. So it goes through all the maintenance, and the procedure to reset them is the same way. We're going to go to vehicle check. We're going to reset that as well. Hold it, let go, hold it again. Good to go. So guys, that's the whole process, how to change your oil, reset the lights. Let me know what you think in the comments if you have any questions about it. And keep your engine bay looking clean. Make sure you inspect everything. Just keep up on your maintenance. That is key with BMWs. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm having more videos on cars like these. Repairs, knowledge, anything you guys want. Even ask me in the comments what you want to know about these cars. I'll do my best to give you my answer. Catch you on the next one, guys.